I'm joined by someone fabulous, Alexandra Miro of Alexandra Miro, the luxury swimwear brand. Alexandra is incredibly generous. She tells us about what it takes to build an amazing brand in today's market, goes back to her early career journey, the challenges she faced in building her brand.
I went and worked for a number of companies and I was fired from literally all of them. I was like absolutely hopeless in an office. I'd have jobs as PAs and I'd send the bosses to like the wrong airports. I just thought, well, I think I'm going to set up a swimwear brand. You could see everybody just rolling their eyes because swimwear brands, they come and go. The major challenge I had in the first year was I just did absolutely everything. I just give myself different email addresses just to make the business sound bigger.
What's one piece of advice that you've been given that turned out to be absolutely right?
Just keep going.
Even through the hard times?
Yeah, just don't give up.
Alexandra Miro. I'm so excited. You know what? When I met you, I genuinely then believed in manifestation. And I'll tell you the reason why. I have been following your brand for as long as I can remember, thinking it was the most elegant, classy, stylish, timeless swimwear and resort brand that I'd ever found. And when I found it as a brand and I felt that it was perfect for me and I, fell in love with it, I thought, first of all, I need to find a way to meet this woman and I need to find a way to work with her. And not only have I done both, I've managed to get you here today because I want to know everything there is to know about your journey and your story and how you managed to create such a brand that I think is, well, in my opinion, the most perfect swimwear brand for women. Before Alexandra Miro, the brand, there was Alexandra Miro, the young girl.
Yeah.
So where did it all start? Tell me about, where you grew up and how you found the fact that you wanted to create something.
So, well, thanks for the amazing introduction. I'm so glad you love the brand as much as I do. And I would say the journey for Alexandra Miro started when I was quite young, actually. And I always had a really keen interest in fashion. It was kind of the 90s, the whole era of the supermodels and those kind of incredible fashions, Versace, Alaya, and those kind of very old school, very glamorous, kind of before the mid 90s, before that heroin chic. So I was really enticed by the glamour and just like the beauty of fashion. I'd also grown up in a household where, my mother was an art dealer, she still is. I've been surrounded by art and came from quite a cultured, artistic background. But interestingly, my parents were very keen on me to pursue an academic path. So even though I should have probably gone straight in and gone to like St. Martin's and, done a fashion degree, they were keen for me to be like academic, which was, quite challenging because I think naturally I was more inclined to be creative. So I went and I did an arts degree and I did a master's and then I left university and my parents made me go do a secretarial course because they thought, well, you're going to need to get a job and, it's a good way to get into, an office. You can start by being a secretary, even though I had degrees and they were like, this is a really good way. So I did the secretarial training and it was like, at the time you learned how to touch type on like typewriters. And I went and worked for a number of companies and I was fired from literally all of them. I was like absolutely hopeless in an office. I would just be like, I'd have jobs as PAs and I'd send like the bosses to like the wrong airports and I'd literally be a like disaster in the, in offices. And so I decided I was going to go and have a little trip to travel the world, and I ended up in Sydney, and I ended up working on the shop floor at Versace, and that really began my kind of career in retail. And I actually really, really flourished there. I really enjoyed it, and I felt quite comfortable. So yeah, that's really, my early kind of trajectory in terms of, so in my 20s, I worked for Versace in Sydney. Then I moved to Prada and then I came back to London. I worked for independent brands. I also worked as like store managers for like for luxury boutiques, multi-retailers. And then I ended up in Selfridges in their personal shopping department for like 4 years. And that was very, I would say, instrumental. I didn't realize at the time, but having that kind of relationship with the customer made me understand, what do women really want in terms of how do they want to look, how do they want to feel, and also the hang-ups and insecurities that all of us have, and how to kind of, I was working with so many, Selfridges is huge. So I was seeing all the brands on the shop floor. So I had an understanding of how each one fit. That was a really amazing kind of background for me.
I think it's amazing that you practically did exactly what I did. And, admin just wasn't my thing either. And, I really related to you when you said that. And then, you went straight into luxury retail. So obviously, because of what we do, I really want to go back into that a little bit more. When you moved to Sydney, obviously realizing that the whole admin piece wasn't for you, secretarial just wasn't you at all. Although you were, in touch with fashion and you were really passionate about it, what made you decide to hit the shop floor rather than try to get into an office-based environment within fashion, because that's what you had experience in?
Well, I didn't actually have experience within fashion at all when I was prior to that, it was really difficult to break into fashion offices because my degree was completely unrelated to fashion. So I just went into any office prior to that would have me. So I didn't have prior fashion experience, and I really wanted to get into fashion. So that's how I ended up on the shop floor, because I thought it would be a stepping stone to, maybe going, starting off on the shop floor, and then I could kind of progress into, a buying office or, another role within, more in the kind of office environment. But that never really happened. I just ended up staying on the shop floor because I actually enjoyed it. And yeah, I feel like it was the right environment for me at the time. Probably in hindsight, I should have, as I said before, just gone and done a design degree and become a designer. But I didn't. And so that's really where I was for 10 years. I'm in different kind of roles. But it was, as I said before, very important, I think, for where I am now.
100%. I say it all the time to whoever I meet within retail, whatever you do in fashion, if you've had the experience on the shop floor, you get the answers from the horse's mouth, from your clients directly.
Yeah.
And I say it to, our staff now, as much as people see it perhaps as maybe a stopgap job or, not quite as serious as perhaps they should take it, that experience allows you to really understand your client. And somebody like you that's built a brand, you've got that firsthand experience now. So what I want to understand is, you've now built this amazing, amazing brand. I'm saying that because I'm a consumer, I'm obsessed with it. And, I've been in love with it since I first found it. When did you first realize from, coming directly from retail, thinking right now's the time I want to do my own thing? What was that trigger moment for you?
Well, I mean, there was a journey after that. I finished my kind of retail career. I went off and I had a daughter, and I went and lived in Brighton for 7 years with my ex-husband, who was running a business down there. And so my daughter was born, and then 3 months later, I was in a kind of mother and toddlers group, and I was thinking, this is going to be quite challenging for me because I wasn't, that kind of, I'm not saying I wasn't a natural mother, but I just was keen to get back and do something. And I met another mother there who was very, very instrumental in introducing me to the world of e-commerce. And we set up a business together where we multi-retailed luxury lingerie. At that time, it was really pioneering. It was around 2009, and nobody really was doing that. Net-a-Porter was kind of there. They hadn't really started doing lingerie, so we were the first people doing it. And we did actually have a lot of success. We had lots of amazing PR. We were on the front cover of the Sunday Times Style. Wow. So we did gain a lot of success. And at that time, it was pre-Instagram, pre-social media. So it was all very traditional press. And it was great. And I ran that business for 5 years, eventually sold it. And then, so I didn't just go from the shop floor to running my own brand. I then had this e-commerce business. So I had, even though I was more the creative side of running the business because the other lady was an e-com whiz, I did get kind of my first taste of e-commerce and the power of e-commerce, because prior to that, I'd only really known like physical retail. So I've seen it from both kind of ways.
Having that experience across both is obviously really valuable. But then you decided to start your own brand and focus purely on e-com.
Yeah.
So what was that journey like? So you sold the business.
Yeah.
You then
I moved back to London.
You moved back to London.
I split up from that husband. And I went through a kind of period of like, what am I going to do the rest of my life? I was obviously in quite, difficult time of my life. And I just thought, well, I think I'm going to set up a swimwear brand. And like, you could see everybody just rolling their eyes because, swimwear brands is like, there's a lot of people say they want to start up a swimwear brand, and it's, it's just always, I don't want to be rude, but they come and go, let's put it that way. So everybody was like, oh yeah, okay, kind of rolled their eyes. And I was like, no, I'd had this background in working with lingerie. I'd had a background in e-com. I'd had the background in retail. But I was really like, because when I work with the lingerie and I try it on, I think, wow, it really like, when you try on lingerie, it really does great wonders for the body. Whereas a lot of swimwear I was trying on was just like, didn't really give you that good shape. So I was like, how can I bring, the techniques of lingerie that I'd worked with in my last business and apply them to swimwear? And so I launched 5 styles of swimsuit. At the time, I was obsessed by swimsuits. I didn't have a single bikini in that range. I felt that the like swimsuits were just really, I mean, now there's a great variety of them, but at the time you couldn't really get a nice swimsuit. So I was, I'm just going to launch with 5, and I did them in this quite interesting fabric, which was like almost like a scuba fabric, because I felt that was going to like really kind of mold the body. And yeah, Selfridges picked it up within like a couple of months, and that was really like the.
What was that process like? What made you think, oh my God, I'm going to go to Selfridges? Or did somebody come to you? What was that process like? How did you get your product into Selfridges? This is a huge, huge deal for any brand launching.
Yeah.
And for you to launch with just 5 different styles, for them to pick it up straight away, I mean, that's an achievement.
I decided tactically that I was going to do like this very tiny trade show, like which was literally round the corner from Selfridges. And I found the buyer's number. And I basically just hassled them to come and have a look at it. And they did.
So that's your retail experience.
Yes. Yeah.
Bringing that straight back in. And,
yeah. So I was really,
it.
really lucky to have that. And then once I had Selfridges, it was, I wouldn't just say like it just took off, but getting your first big retailer is always going to be very important for like an independent young brand.
I really love what you said about the whole, how lingerie made you feel, and that you weren't able to find that with swimwear. And it's a conversation that I was actually having this morning when I was talking about your brand. And I don't know if you were conscious of this when you launched the brand, but buying swimwear, buying lingerie is actually a really personal purchase for women. And it's something that, almost like, I guess, fragrance or fine jewelry, where it really is quite emotional as well. Women really need to feel amazing when they're buying, swimwear, because, all right, lingerie, not many people are going to see it, but, their swimwear, they're going to wear it in public.
Yeah.
And they need to feel amazing. And that is the driver behind their purchase. And you've done that impeccably well. And I mean, I can say that as a consumer, but was that something that you were conscious of completely from the beginning, or did it just happen?
No, I think, designing those first 5 swimsuits, the desire was really to make people feel great and confident, and to, as you said before, wearing swimwear is something that is quite daunting. You're going into the public domain with like hardly any clothes on, and you're probably walking around, you're having lunch, you're not just like freeze there, you have to like walk around in it, so you have to feel like good in it. So I definitely designed and I still do design swimwear that people feel really, really confident in. And now, because we match it with a resort wear, so it's like not just the swimwear, it's like the swimwear is just like one component, but it's like this, it's like the swimsuit with a skirt, the swimsuit with a cover up, the swimsuit with the pants, the swimsuit with the shorts. It's a complete look. So you can wear like a swimsuit for the beach, then you can put anything on the accompaniments, and you can go for lunch, you can go for dinner, and so it's like a complete look. Sometimes when we've got the swimsuit and the skirt, we get people saying, where can I buy that dress? Because it looks like a dress.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
It looks like evening wear,
Yeah,
some of it. It
yeah,
really is.
yeah.
You know, and that's why I loved what you said about, you know, at the beginning about the 90s glamour.
Yeah.
Because it absolutely has that.
Yeah.
You know, you feel like you are, you know, and even sometimes I look at it and I think that's so, it's beyond glamorous actually. And you can really, really see that, you know, even in your campaigns, the confidence that's, you know, coming through in these looks is just amazing. So I'm going to take it back again to when you worked in retail.
Mm-hmm.
What did standing on the shop floor in a luxury retail environment teach you about customers that people who have never sold a product, that have launched a brand, don't understand?
Well, I think it teaches you that people, when they come into a shop, they're not just coming into a shop to buy a piece of clothing. They're coming in because they like the interaction. They like the attention that you give them. They like you to really like notice them, notice what they look like, make them feel good. That's why they're in there. Otherwise, I mean, at the time, yes, you know, they couldn't buy things online because there was no online when I was working on the shop floor. But it's just the care and attention that people really enjoy. And, you know, it's interesting. You can't really tell like who's going to be a big customer and who's going to spend and who's not going to spend. And that's always something that's really fascinated me. You know, it's the very unassuming person that comes in, who looks a bit of a mess. You know, they're the big spenders, and the ones that come in, you know, looking very like
dripping in diamonds.
Yeah, either like they don't have any money.
It's really funny because I had another really amazing guest on this podcast recently, a guy called Eric Christopher Hall, who has launched a business called Emotive Retail, and he was also at Prada. I replaced him at Chanel actually, and we never actually met prior to that. And he told a really interesting story about when he worked at Dolce & Gabbana, and somebody walked in who was really scruffy and nobody showed her any attention.
Yeah.
And I think she spent with him about £80,000 in one transaction. Was there a time where you had that scenario where a customer came in to wherever you were working and, you know, you had no idea that this person had anything to spend and then they absolutely went for it?
Yeah, loads of times. I mean, it's happened loads. I've worked in retail a lot of times. I mean, 80,000, no. But definitely, you know, where I've felt like, I mean, it's happened multiple times where if I'd have just, you know, thought from just the look of a person, or I don't think they're going to spend, but, you know, they have spent, you know, 10 grand, 5 grand, you know, so yeah, absolutely, that's happened.
I say all the time that people buy from people.
Yeah.
And you obviously spent a long time in retail. Have you, and you would have built some brilliant relationships. Are you still, you know, friendly with any of your previous clients from when you were at Selfridges as a personal shopper? Any of them customers now?
Well, that's really interesting. No, maybe they are customers now, but I just don't know about it.
That's why we need to put more of you out there.
Yeah, I think maybe they are. Probably, I'm sure a lot of those women that, you know, actually, I started off with men's personal shopping. I did men for like many years.
Did you?
Yeah.
How did you find that? Because I started my luxury retail career in menswear and
Really?
I absolutely hated it. Yeah.
Oh, really?
I did a really short stint and I mean, I had an awful experience and I changed immediately. I was like, oh my God, no, I can't be doing that anymore. And
what happened?
Well, it's a story actually. I was actually working in menswear and there was a client that used to come in all the time and ask me out. And I was really young and it made me feel really uncomfortable. And this one particular time he came in and he asked me to get something for him whilst he was in the changing room. And when I took it to him in the changing room, he opened the door and he was stark as and said to me, will you go out with me now? And I ran down to the manager's office crying my eyes out. I think I was about 18. And I said, I can't do this anymore. I can't work in menswear. And they transferred me straight away to women's wear.
Oh my
I was
gosh.
petrified. I mean, it would never happen now. Could you imagine? He was banned from the store, actually.
Was he?
Yeah, he was. So, you know, hats off to my manager. He went upstairs and he banned him from the store.
I mean, no, I mean, I'd never had any experiences like that, obviously. But I just find men so easy to sell to compared to women. They just buy whatever you tell them. If they look nice in it, yep, we'll have 10 of those. And like they just had no body hang ups, just like it's totally chilled.
Yeah.
Yeah, I find like men's, but I just don't find, I mean, I've got to be like really honest here. I'm never saying I'm never going to do men's like swim stuff, but it's not something that I find super interesting. I just don't find men's clothing that interesting.
See, I was the opposite. I really enjoyed men's clothing and I still do. I really like it.
Yeah.
And I would absolutely love, you know, styling men.
Yeah.
But because of that experience, I never, ever went back to it.
That's fair.
Yeah. And I was like, absolutely never again. And I carried on my career in women's wear and accessories. So it's really interesting, actually, because that was going to be one of my questions. Do you think the brand will evolve to maybe include menswear later on?
I don't know. I'd have to get a menswear designer on board because I don't know if I could design menswear.
Well, let's see. I want to move on because building your own brand with your own name is something that most people will find absolutely petrifying, because if anything goes wrong, it's all, you know, it's all on you, of course. And it was the same with me when I launched my business. You know, although I'm co-founder, the business is in my name. Yeah. And it's, you know, essentially a reflection on me and what I do. Mm-hmm. When you decided, and then obviously you go on to talk about the 5 pieces initially, what was the first major challenge that you faced when launching the brand?
Well, I think the major challenge I had in the first year was I just did absolutely everything. So, and I pretty much did that for the first 4 years. You know, I do the customer service, I do the design, I do all the photo shoots, like completely on my own. The challenge was I wasn't going to hire anybody because I didn't have the budget. And I would pretty much do everything. And I just give myself different email addresses just to make the business sound bigger. So I just be like, have 5 different emails and just pretend that I was like different people. Just to
Suet accounts or something like
exactly.
that.
So just like, but I had to lie. And then I'd say the major challenge I had at the beginning was I had somebody, you know, for the first, the only thing I did outsource was my production. And that, even though it worked for me for the first couple of years, it became more problematic.
Tell me about that.
So I think as, you know, I was, prior to launching the brand, I had quite an engaged following I wouldn't say I was an influencer, but, you know, I had a following and I was kind of doing lots of posts on my Instagram, and I'd been asked to do this kind of like influencer stroke modeling job. And when I was on the shoot, one of the people that I was telling her that I wanted to set up a brand, and she was like, wow, that's amazing. You know, I can help you. I've got a brand and I do something. She wasn't in swimwear, but she was in activewear. So that's the same factories. So in some ways it was like a very fortuitous meeting, because it did help me kind of, you know, it does help me kind of achieve my goals at the time when I was very like kind of new. And it did work for some time, but as time went on, it became very difficult to make the business profitable with the structure that I had in place.
So when was the turning point where you thought, okay, enough is enough? If I need this brand to continue, I need to stop this now and make a change? Well,
I think about 4 years ago, I had a very serious kind of conversation with myself and was like, I'm going to have to bring production in-house. I'm going to have to get rid of this very like stifling situation, where I had very low visibility on prices. I wasn't able to freely communicate that easily with my factories. The quality was kind of very variable. And I was like, I'm going to bring in a team and I'm going to oversee it myself. Even though I'm going to bring in professionals, I'm going to like have the last, I'm going to overlook it and I'm going to make sure it's exactly as I want. Pricing is right. I have full transparency of how much things cost. And it's actually when I just stopped being scared and I was able, because the business was at a point we could start employing people, that I had time to do it. At the beginning, I just didn't have time because I was just doing everything. So for me to manage production, I mean, it would have been impossible for one person to do everything. But by that point, I kind of built the team. I had a bit more of a team and I was like, yeah, this is the right moment.
I think it's the scariest part, right? Because, you know, I've grown up in a production world, essentially. You know, my dad had a factory, my uncle's got a factory. It's obviously how I met you. But, you know, it would be the scariest part for me because I don't know a lot about it either. And I know fashion through and through, similar to you. I've worked in retail. I know what the customer wants. I could, you know, probably, you know, think of all those things. But that, you know, would be a really difficult thing. And I think what's so amazing about you is that you were able to identify that, you know, at the right time in your business and think, right, okay, enough's enough. And I need to take control.
I really should have done that years before, but I was scared, you know, and actually I met quite a good recruiter who put me in contact with my now production manager who, you know, and that just like changed the business completely. From that, we got product developer. And then that was very, you know, that changed the game.
Well, it absolutely did.
Yeah.
So you've now gone into, and how we met, you've now gone into, you know, a pop-up.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're dipping your toe in the world of retail in a physical form.
Absolutely.
And the boutique's beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's there now in Ledbury Road in Notting Hill.
Yeah.
What do you think, you know, what do you think that's going to do for the business?
Well, I think it was really important to have a kind of physical space. It's much more immersive where people can come in, they can have a touch point with a brand that's not just, you know, online. They can feel the products, they can, you know, understand their size and they can understand how the clothes fit. Because essentially, even though we do bring out collections every year, we do have, you know, our kind of hero styles. And I think once you understand, oh, you know, this is my size, you know, this is my size in the clothes, then it's much easier also to buy online. And we feel like our online sales have really picked up. Even, you know, we've seen people have come into the store, maybe they've purchased one thing and then they've gone home and then they've purchased a lot more, you know. I think it's obviously nice to come in, try it on, have that kind of relationship or kind of that interaction with the salesperson. But then essentially a lot of people do just want to have the clothes brought to their house, try it on and just, you know, make a decision then.
I do think that e-commerce is brilliant for the convenience side.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm never, ever going to take away from that.
Yeah.
You know, it definitely serves a purpose, but there's nothing like a physical retail experience. And I think now, and I know we've had this conversation, but now more than ever, brands are not competing anymore against product as much. They're competing against who's giving the best experience to their clients in store. People want a reason to come to store and interact with people and feel valued as a client and have a really amazing experience. And I think, you know, especially when it comes to something like swimwear, having the opportunity to come in and try it on and really feel a part of something as well, you know, is definitely the way forward. And I think, you know, with that trajectory in the business, you're going to see a humongous amount of success. I really do. And I think by having the right team in place to really bring the brand to life as well, it's going to be on a completely different level. And it's something I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, I think physical space is just something we definitely want to explore more of. I have to just be able to understand we are a very seasonal product. So making, you know, having a permanent kind of shop, that's something that we would really need to consider. Like, what will we be doing in the months where people weren't traveling as much? Obviously, we're in peak travel time. And I mean, saying that though, our customer generally travels all year round. You know, they go away for Christmas. They might go away for the October half term, the Christmas, then there's like the February half term, Easter, and then we're like into, you know, our peak month of summer. And interestingly, our biggest customers from the US, and they travel even more. You know, they don't actually have a lot of holidays. So they go on lots of little holidays all the time. So that
leads me to ask you then, when you launched the brand, was the Alexandra Miro customer the same person to what she is now?
Yeah, I think it is the same customer. I mean, it's obviously an affluent woman who really is interested to look very kind of put together on their holiday. And I think, we've just developed that range to, towards that customer, who wants to kind of be seen. It's a very kind of, I wouldn't say flamboyant, but, it's not for somebody who just wants the kind of bog standard, shorts and like a string bikini. It is something quite glamorous and quite kind of a style savvy person would, want to wear. Somebody who wants to make a statement. So it's naturally somebody who's quite confident. And there's nothing really subtle about Alexandra Miro. So yeah,
I think it gives confidence.
Yeah,
because it really is. It gives a real wow factor.
Yeah,
and it's something that's so recognizable. I told you, didn't I, that I was at an event a couple of weeks ago in Lake Como at a pool party, and so many people were wearing it, and it could have been your fashion show. It was amazing. It really was. And it's so obvious to see. And I think that's where your brand is really strong.
Why do you think it is obvious?
Because I can see the style and the structure of the design.
Yeah.
And for somebody to turn up at a pool party looking like they're going to the Oscars, it can only ever be an Alexandra Miro, piece or outfit.
Yeah.
Nobody else really does that.
Yeah.
Nobody else really does that. And I think that's where you've really got it right.
Yeah.
And I'm super passionate about your brand. And when I get excited about a brand, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm like, okay, I need to somehow get involved because I can see so much potential here. And that's what I felt with you. And I was so excited that we met. Now, again, I want to go back because what really fascinates me is that you talk about how you built this business, you identified the issues that you had with production initially and all these really technical things that you were able to do as a business owner with a really creative mind, but you had no original design training. So how did you identify what was going wrong? And how did you then realize, right, okay, this is what I need to now take control of within my business? Because without that training, initial training, it's really quite difficult, and it's easy for somebody to then be able to pull the wool over your eyes, but that didn't happen with you. So what was it that you were able to see?
Well, I did have the wool pulled over my eyes for many years, and it was always a struggle to get like the fits as perfect as I wanted to get them, because I don't come from a background in design. I didn't have that technical training, and it's only now, maybe 5 years, 6 years into the business that we are so fit critical, and we really working together with our production. We are really working to get that perfect, that ultimate fit that was, I have to be honest, it was pretty good. It was pretty good, but to get to perfection, you have to be so obsessive and so, detail orientated, which I'm not actually. I see the overall picture. I'm not like obsessed by the details, whereas the production team is obsessed by the details, and that is so important to kind of the quality and fit of the product is so important, especially as my product's quite timeless, and it's the kind of product that you'll have in your wardrobe for 10 years. It's not very fashion or trend led. That is so important, especially with swimwear, which is such a technical garment. You need a team that is very, very fastidious in their attention to detail.
Well, I've noticed that. Absolutely true. And I think people see the finished brand, but they don't necessarily think about all what goes into it.
Yeah.
And there's so many layers.
Yeah.
So you talk about obviously having the right team in place and making sure that, those people can do what you don't do or that you're not particularly good at.
Yeah.
And what a lot of brands or a lot of people do when they start a business is they try to focus on what they're good at so much. And I think it's so crucial that, when you are launching a business, that you hire people within your business that can essentially lead you as well.
Yeah.
When you hire people within your business, what is it that you look for in that person?
Well, they have to like my dog first. I only will hire animal lovers. I know that sounds weird, but I have to have a good energy. They have to like animals. They have to be happy because we work from home, and I like to have a good vibe, a good energy. Even before I've looked at their CV, I have to have some kind of like, I have to like them. And I have to feel that kind of camaraderie. I'm not necessarily looking for like the most experienced person. You know, I had my old au pair. She'd been with me, you know, when I was going through a divorce, and she was amazing. And I saw a huge amount of like potential within her. She was really organized. And then she went away for a couple of years, and I just begged her to come back and be my operations person, because I could see like she was extremely, you know, and she's extremely dedicated, and we have a very close, you know, close relationship. And then my right hand woman, Mia, is, you know, extremely close. All the team were very, very close. So yes, I will obviously look at CVs, but it's something that, you know, I'm not just going to hire a person with just tons of experience that I don't feel is, because it is an unconventional company. You know, I'm an unconventional boss.
But I love that, because the way we recruit, and I say this to all my clients, it's all about attitude first.
Yeah, it's, you know, good attitude.
Yeah.
You know, I can tell good attitude. I can tell a person who's like positive and who, you know, I'm not saying like you have to have a passion for Alexandra Miro, but everybody that is working in the business, okay, maybe they wouldn't like necessarily like worry, or it's not their total lifestyle, but like they're passionate about the brand. They want it to do well. And, you know, I'm very relaxed. But if I need to phone you on a Saturday at 8 p.m. at night because something's not working on the website, or then you need to pick that phone up and get going.
I think anyone that's, you know, in business has got that mindset and thinks, you know, it needs, you know, it's all hands on deck. It's not a 9 to 5.
No, it's not a 9 to 5.
It's a growing business.
Exactly.
And, you know, if you've got that attitude, then, you know, it's almost like jumping on the bandwagon, you know, to be a part of something that's growing and be excited about that.
Yes.
And I think that there are so many people that are excited to be a part of something that is growing rather than something that's established, because they don't feel like they're just a number. They really can see the value that they're adding to the business. Yeah. And that's what's really exciting. So I want to talk about the fact that, you know, now you've obviously got your pop-up boutique. You've been stocked in My Teresa for a really long time. You were previously stocked in Selfridges. Talk to me about that process, because there'll be people that will be listening to this that are launching brands, excited about that and thinking, wow, you know, she essentially started this as a one-man band, and she managed to get in with all these incredible people. What was it about you that, you know, you were able to do that?
Well, you know, people think that there's a magic formula, but you know what, I think there isn't. Like for me, I think you need to go product first. And also, I think when I launched it 10 years ago, wholesale was a very, you know, everybody was still in that kind of wholesale mindset. I think the world has changed now, and I would be quite cautious as a young brand to focus necessarily, you know, very heavily on wholesale. I think, you know, launch a product, a tiny range, you know, have an audience for that range, because now, even if I didn't have a single wholesaler, I could still run my business because I have an audience. I've built up, you know, an e-commerce brand that is built that people buy from globally. And I think that's a lot more valuable, because wholesale, if I'm really honest, it's very unreliable. You know, I've worked with some big players and they don't pay you. A lot of the times you have to front all the production costs up. Well, with all the kind of big ones, you have to front the production costs, and then you might need to wait, you know, 60 days to be paid. Sometimes you don't get paid at all, and then you have to start, you know, fighting legal suits. So as a young designer, I would almost not be worrying about wholesale, if I'm honest. Try and build your brand independently in wholesale, and if you get wholesale, then all well and good, but it wouldn't be my focus if I was to launch a brand tomorrow.
So looking back now, what would you do differently if you were launching again?
Well, I wouldn't do anything differently, because I do feel like having Selfridges was great for my brand, to have your product on a shop floor, being a London-based brand. But over the years, I've chased wholesale, and you know, we spent quite a lot of money, you know, going to shows and you know, pursuing this wholesale dream. And maybe the thing is that I would rather have my brand and have it, sell directly to my customer with, in an ideal world with like lots of physical shops, so people can come in and have that experience, as opposed to wholesaling all around the world to like lots of different stores. You don't know how they're going to merchandise it in store. A lot of them now want you to just like work on consignment because, they think, oh, well, if you're in the store, somebody might see it. But I've given my stock to consignment stores, big ones in the US. I've gone in there to look at it, and it's like, you've got a bikini and it's like scrumpled up amongst 20 others.
Hidden in the back somewhere.
And I'm thinking, yes, it's a good store, but really what's it doing for my brand? I'd rather spend that money in the stock, which, you only kind of get the money for if they sell it. And I'd rather invest that money into something tangible.
Yeah, absolutely. I think as well, when you run a business, if you are, I don't want to say necessarily a control freak, but if you are very much about, right, this is my name.
Yeah.
I need it to represent, me and what I believe in the best possible way. Yeah. So I think you're almost giving away that control, aren't you, so much when it comes to wholesale.
Yeah, definitely.
But, running a business means that you're suddenly, you become the finance director, you become the operations director, you become a leader overnight, especially when you start hiring people. Which part of that do you think you had to learn the hard way?
Well, I think the most challenging I haven't, earlier on in my kind of in the business, I did have a few wrong hires. Maybe people that I listened to, maybe people who had a different creative vision to me, and that took my brand down a wrong turn. I think at the time, as I said before, I was going through a difficult patch, and I would give away too much. I'd be too trusting. I'd give away too much responsibility, and I wasn't quite on top of it as I should have been. So I think that is really challenging when you give away too much of your brand, especially when it comes to the creative vision of your brand. I don't think you should ever do that. Obviously, I do work with designers, but I have a very tight control, and they have very clear parameters of what I do and I don't like. Oh, and also I would listen to too many buyers from different stores telling me what I should be doing, and I don't do that anymore. I just like all the time people are, oh wow, if you do this length, oh you can do it this, oh you should, to make it more commercial, you could have it like 2 inches longer, oh your dresses are really see-through. That's just like I just don't listen to that anymore. I used to, and then I'd be trying to do different things, trying to please like lots of different people, because that's how I thought I could grow my wholesale business. But that's just be true to your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the more you are to that, the more authentic you are. You mentioned that you went through a difficult time and you've got a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is it to run a business as a single mum, start it from scratch, and make it so successful?
I mean, it was difficult at the time, but to be quite honest, if I didn't have the business, I think I would have been in a worse position, because I'd just be bored and depressed. At least I was just a bit depressed but busy. I feel a sense of empowerment from running my business, which I wouldn't have had if I'd just been, got a massive sum and just been doing Pilates. Or not that there's anything wrong with that, the balancing, like having a young child and working. I've never felt like that kind of guilt, because, I would expect my daughter to, if she wanted to go and have a career and do something with her life. And I think that's, to show like your child that, that you as a woman, you can go out, you can make it, and you can run a successful business. What's wrong with that? Like, why should I feel guilty about doing that? I have a very close relationship with my daughter, and it doesn't seem to have damaged her in any way.
Well, she must be incredibly proud and inspired by you.
I hope so.
Oh, I'm sure she is.
Yeah.
Because you've built an incredible business, an amazing brand, something that you should be proud of. I ask this often, because even as a business owner myself, it's something that's really difficult. Do you often sit back and feel proud of yourself? because of
No.
what you've built? Do you sit back and ever reflect on what you've been through and how you've managed to build your business to what it is today?
If I'm really honest, no, I don't. I always think it's not quite good enough, or it hasn't kind of got quite where I want it to. I mean, sometimes, you have every day there's a high and a low. But yeah, no, I never sit back and think, wow, you've really made it, Alexandra, you really made it. No, I think, oh, but it's not this and it's not that, and you haven't done this. And I'd love to get to the point where I'm like, yeah, I've really I've really nailed this one. But every day there's like a challenge. And yeah, I mean, obviously everybody says, you should feel really proud, but I don't yet, no.
When do you think you will?
Never.
Is that a personality trait, or is
Probably.
that because something that you want to achieve in the business that you don't quite think you will do? Or do you think that, you're still on the journey and you're going to continue onto it?
No, I'm still on a journey, and until I'm like the size of, I don't know, Missoni, probably going to still be.
But I see you on that level. I do. I mean,
That's very
as
kind.
as a customer, I do see you. That's why I'm sitting here thinking anyone would be listening would think this woman's mad. She's built this amazing brand that is, recognized everywhere, that it's just absolutely stunning. I think you've absolutely nailed it with your customer base and the target that you want to hit, because it is so beautiful and it's completely timeless. And I think you've built a brand around enabling women to feel confident. And that's something in itself that you should feel proud of.
Yeah.
Because not many brands would think like that. They think about their products only, but you're thinking about the woman who's going to be wearing it and how that's going to make her feel.
Yeah.
And that's something you should feel proud of. A question I want to ask you is, over the years, you've obviously been focusing on women, but what has that taught you about body confidence and body image, and what has surprised you the most about that?
Well, I don't think anything surprised me about it, because I think because of the kind of world we've grown up in, especially now with social media and, just everybody comparing themselves to the next person, women always are going to have these, body hang-ups. No, I even see it with models that I work with. But I look at my daughter, actually, and she's interesting because she's like, she's 17 and she doesn't have any body hang-ups.
Thank God.
I know. She's just, really like confident in her body. And I wish like more people could be like that, because she's just really happy in her body. And I think that's quite a rare thing. And I feel like if women just were more embracing of, of how they looked, because it's only going to get worse, because you're only going to get older and it's only going to get more difficult. And I can tell you that from experience. So you have to kind of like just be at peace with yourself after a while, because if, you just got to love yourself where you're at.
Well, I think everyone should buy one of your swimsuits and then they'll feel amazing. I want to go back to the fact that now you are in residency in Ledbury Road, your first pop-up.
Only 2 more weeks though.
2 more weeks left. I mean, but watch this space. I'm sure more will come from it. But when was the point in your business when you thought, right, okay, it's time?
Like last year, but I've been telling myself it was time for 3 years, but I was just too lazy to do anything about it.
So why this year? What was the kick?
I just felt like last year was a great year for us, like in terms of profitability. I had some money and I was like, I'm going to invest it into a pop-up. I'm not going to just do a pop-up where I've got like a white space with 2 rails, like, oh, I just do it for a week. No, I'm going to spend some money. I'm going to I had an amazing designer who came on board and did an amazing installation. It was almost like an artwork with a beautiful sculpture. And then this is the way I wanted to do it. I didn't want to do it like on the cheap. So last year, as I said, was a really good year for us. We made quite a lot of money. And with that money, I was like, I'm going to actually do it properly. Otherwise, I'm not going to do it at all.
And you absolutely have done it properly. Yeah. And I think everyone should, flock down there, because it is absolutely gorgeous.
Thank you.
I feel like I'm walking into, I don't know, I feel like I'm on holiday when I'm in there. It's just absolutely gorgeous. I think, there's something quite interesting, when you speak to brands that open a pop-up initially instead of just going straight in. Mm-hmm. What has the toe dip been for you? Has it given you the confidence to really focus on this area of the business and physical retail? Do you think this is the way forward for your brand?
I think it is. I mean, obviously we've gone in there very cold. Like, when I don't know if you know the process of a pop-up, but you have very limited Even though we got the pop-up, even though we started looking at the pop-up like last September, there wasn't really a huge amount of choice. And, there's maybe like 10 shops in London that could be, they might be okay. It has been a real like learning curve. It makes you think you need to get the right staff in there. We've had a few, I have to say, like, the people in the shop have been lovely. There have been a few reiterations of staff, like, before once I started using you, I could understand like how having the right staff can really, it's a different experience when somebody walks into a shop, and that is really important, to have the right shop staff working there. It's not just about whether they're like nice and sweet. It's just like, how do they sell, how do they approach the customer, how confident they are. I think it's really important to have staff that are very confident and just, it's a very small space. It's a very intimate space. So you need to make that customer feel really confident.
I think as well with a pop-up.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's our bread and butter, right? We do them all the time. It's a core part of our business. But with a pop-up, it's a limited amount of time that you've got to really impress your customers.
Yeah.
Staffing often gets overlooked until it's a problem.
Yeah.
And that's often when, our clients would then come to us if they haven't used us from the start.
Yeah.
And they realize, and I'm really happy that we were able to help you. But, it is so crucial to have the right people in place.
Yeah.
And it is people that make the difference.
Yeah.
Having the right team, it's them that creates the brand experience. They
Absolutely.
are the storytellers.
Yeah.
And now more than ever, my clients are saying to me, within luxury brands, Steph, it's not just great sellers that I'm looking for. It's brilliant storytellers. That's what I need. People that can really engage with our clients and tell our story.
Yeah.
Because that's what they're buying into now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You've got an amazing story with your brand. And I think that there's a long way to go with your retail journey, but I know that it's going to be amazing because of this short space of time that you've had your pop-up.
Yeah.
I've seen it and I've seen how amazing it's going to be. How do you see retail and e-commerce then now working together with your brand?
Well, I think, it's really, they're working really good synergy. I mean, people see the images, they obviously everything now is quite social media driven.
Yeah.
So they look on the Instagram, they see the pictures of like, the gorgeous models, then they might see me talking about the products, and then they come in, so they see the images, they have an idea about the brand from social, and then they come in and they try the products, then they know their sizes, and then they go back on them. A lot of customers, like, they're not even from England that have come in. So they go back to their countries, tell their friends about it. They'll know their sizes and keep reordering. And that's really, the lifetime value of those customers who've had a good experience coming in store, because you'll never have the same volume of sales in an in-store that you will online. Online, you're opening yourself up to a global market. And, because most of our marketing is done into the US. This is where our main customer base is. But, we would really love to grow the brand so that we have, physical stores in all of our kind of key places.
We'll watch this space.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Going back to, teams and people representing your brand.
Yeah.
When you think about it and you think about a member of staff on the shop floor now, if we're thinking about physical retail, you mentioned when you hire staff now, they have to like your dog, they have to, love the environment of working from home, all of this sort of stuff, right? And be a part of your Alexandra Miro family.
Yeah.
But when you're now expanding into retail,
yeah,
somebody is going to be standing on your shop floor, representing you and your brand.
Yeah.
So what qualities would you then look for in that person?
I'd look for somebody who's got a really nice, positive energy. That's what I look for, a willingness to be helpful, to be kind, to be engaged, an engaged person, to be interested in people, because, somebody comes in and you need to be like a good communicator. You need to engage with them. You need to make them feel good. And that's
curious.
Curious. That's really important.
I think as well, being able to have really strong emotional intelligence as well.
Yeah.
That's just something I've taken from. And I think especially when it's a purchase like swimwear, when a woman could potentially be quite emotional about that, it's really important that someone's got that real emotional intelligence. A question because you've also got retail experience, and we spoke about that from the beginning. Do you think great luxury retail can be taught?
No.
Or do you think the best people already have something in them?
It can't be taught. It's just like running a business. Like, you can't really go and do an MBA. Like, there's so many people that go and do MBAs and do all these business. They have all these business things, and you put them in a business, and they're just terrible. You know, these with business, I think you've either got it or you don't have it. You know, you learn it on the job. It's like retail. Like, you're either good with people and you can engage people, and they like you immediately, or
they don't.
And that's unfortunately just the way it goes.
And that's why what I say in every single podcast, I think I say it 100 times a day. I say it to every single client and every single candidate, and that is that people buy from people.
Yeah.
They absolutely do. And I don't think there's ever going to be a more true sentence to say when it comes to, you know, selling to people physically on the shop floor. Building a business under your own name is incredibly personal. How do you separate yourself from the brand?
I don't really have that kind of separation. I just feel like I am my brand and my brand is me. And like, we are just one.
Do you ever switch off?
No.
Never? So having your business, running it from home, you know, now having your retail space, going to visit factories, you know, living life day to day.
And I travel a lot as well. Remember, like I'm, you know, quarter of the time I've spent traveling.
But I'm assuming that even when you're traveling, you're still working. Yeah,
I'm still working.
Yeah. So there's never time just for you where you can separate yourself and just switch off. No. Is that something you'd like to do?
Yeah, but I laugh because like my right hand woman says I just enjoyed I love the stress of work and I like the buzz, and I just like going up in the morning and just finding something to worry about with regards to the business. Even if things are going like really well, I can just still find something to be a little bit like, oh, that's not going quite right. Or
I need to introduce you to my brother. You're going to be best friends. That's what he does. But
I love to have a good worry.
Looking back at your business now, you've been in business 10 years.
Yeah.
What's the greatest lesson that entrepreneurship has taught you? Not just about business, but about yourself as a person.
It really humbles you, and it's a humbling experience because you never stop learning. And when you think you know it all, like just something will come along, like opening a pop-up. I just thought, I'm just going to know what to do here. It's not going to be a big problem. And I thought I just like knew what kind of, you know, what the sales are going to be like. And, you know, I just do all the recruiting myself. And, you know, I just pick the location. Oh yeah, the location will be fine because people will just, you know, it'll be totally fine. And then it's just like a really humbling experience. Even if you've like had a brand for like 10 years, and of course we have amazing customers, and that's what's made the pop-up successful in the sense we've also like extended it. But I was just completely unrealistic with, you know, what are my expectations of, you know, I thought physical retail was going to be like, because I didn't realize the amount of work and kind of analysis and how much like background kind of research you have to do to make a shop like really profitable and like really successful. And that's, you know, so I say with entrepreneurship, you know, you really need to, it's a humbling experience. And I think, you know, you're going to be humbled every day.
You absolutely are.
Yeah.
I can definitely vouch for that.
And also like what's taught me is with entrepreneurship is you need to just get stuck in everything. You know, I said, I just do everything to do with the business, and that's, you know, you're always, as an entrepreneur, that's something you're always going to have to do. That can just be like the most menial things, like steaming things, like, you know, ripping stickers off like cups before, you know, you've got an event. Just like, you know, just be prepared to do anything.
Yeah, roll your sleeves up.
Yeah.
In 20 years from now, when somebody hears the name Alexandra Miro, what do you hope they immediately think of?
Holidays.
Luxury holidays.
Luxury holidays, or any holiday they want to wear. They don't need to be on a luxury holiday.
I think it's really funny, isn't it? I don't know if I said this to you in our meeting recently, but my brother made a really good analogy when it comes to branding.
Yeah.
And he said, when you go to wash up the dishes, you only think of Fairy Liquid.
Yeah.
And that's what we need to create.
Yeah.
And I think I can say now.
Yeah.
before I met you,
Yeah.
when I was going on holiday and I wanted beautiful swimwear, I only thought of you. And that was before I met you, before I had any involvement in, working with you. And I think that you should be really, really proud of what you've built, because it is a fantastic brand. And I think it's going to be around forever. And I think it's completely timeless. And you really have created something for everyone, or every woman for sure. What's one belief you've changed, you've changed your mind about during your career?
You can't do everything yourself.
You had a good go at it, though.
Just damn good go.
You had a really good go at it. What's one piece of advice that you've been given that turned out to be absolutely right?
Just keep going.
Even through the hard times?
Yeah, just don't give up.
What's something the luxury industry still gets wrong today?
For me, it overprices things. It's too expensive.
Not as accessible.
Yeah.
And this is a question asked absolutely every guest because of the title of the podcast, being Runway to Excellence. What does excellence mean to you?
Well, with regard to my business, it means, creating product that is excellent in every way, that looks beautiful, that fits beautifully, fabric looks great. So it's all about the product. That, to me, that's a start. That should be the basis for any fashion brand, that you're creating something excellent.
That lasts a lifetime.
Yeah.
And finally, if someone's watching this now with a dream that's keeping them awake at night, what's the one thing that you'd want them to hear from you?
Well, go for it, but also really do your research, because I hear a lot of business ideas, and obviously I would never want to deter somebody's dream. And obviously you don't want to over-research things, because, then you'll never do anything. But just be cautious, it's a really hard... It's, if you want to do it. But know that I don't believe there's anything as overnight success. So it's just a hard slog. And even, 10 years into it, it's still a hard slog. So just be prepared for that. That's what I tell them.
Yeah. It's definitely not a 9 to 5.
No.
It's when you open your eyes to when you close them.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for you coming here today, and for meeting you. I find you fascinating, and I think you've got an amazing brand, and you should absolutely be proud of it every single day. So thank you you so much for joining me, and I'm sure whoever's going to be listening will be super inspired by what you've built.
Hopefully.
And get to the pop-up Ledbury Road.
2 weeks left.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Starts on the 3rd of August.